Don't you think the media is totally muzzled and is not doing what it's supposed to do?
I wouldn't say it's completely muzzled, but yes, these factors do come into play. Look at what happened. Was it in Mexico? Where the president was molested by a guy in the crowd. Can you imagine what kind of thinking that was?
For sermoning we have done to the girls. I think we require to sermon the boys and tell them how to behave, how to be a responsible individual, and how to facilitate the growth of a girl. What is your take on marital rape? Supreme Court doesn't want to give an order around it.
I don't know why it won't. Yeah. That is completely against in any country, in any society. I think it's completely unacceptable, and I can't imagine our Supreme Court, which in the recent past has come out with so many good judgments, why it's sitting on the fence on this.
Hey Sandhya, you have been a crime reporter, and that is something very unusual. We don't hear very many women into this particular field, and that was in your nascent stage, in the initial years of your career. Tell me something about crime reporting, because I think it's psychologically very challenging. At the same time, you have to be ethically balanced. So tell me something about that particular phase of yours.
So like you said, it was at the very beginning of my career. I had just barely joined journalism, and I had just completed my 6 months of training as a journalist when this was suddenly dumped on me. And I didn't think too deep about it at that time, because you're young. I was barely 24, I think, and it was an adventure, and it got me to meet so many different kinds of people. And I would meet criminals, I would meet their lawyers, I would meet the cops, I would meet the victims. So it used to be very interesting for me to meet all of them, and people are so willing to answer questions, which is what I realized as a journalist. You have so much power. And remember, this was days before social media. Yes. So people were not willing to talk so much. Now everybody is oversharing. They're dumping everything on you, whether you want it or not. But those days it was still, people were a little hesitant. So it used to be quite nice. And I think it taught me a lot about different kinds of mindsets of people.
So tell me, Sandhya, in your career, did you ever have a state or a day when you wanted to cover something, but because you thought it's sensitive and you purposely did not reveal it? And how much justice did you do to that story?
Oh, I think I had to push to cover a story, or at least be given an opportunity to explore a story, where I got a tip off from one of my colleagues who said her neighbors were from their neighbor's house. Every night she could hear a girl crying, and she could hear beating, and that girl would keep screaming, and nobody went to help because everybody felt, it's not our business. So I wanted to check, and I reached out to the cops, who all said, nobody's made a complaint, so we are not going to do it. So I pushed at that time there was a DCP who I knew pretty well, and I said, we need to figure this out. So I went with him on a night round, and then we found out the real story, which is not okay. I mean, it was not so serious. So this girl was going to be married off without her will.
Oh.
So she was pretending to be possessed.
Okay.
So the guy would say no. Oh. But then the family had got this person who was supposed to be exorcist. So he used to beat her with a broomstick every night to get the demon out of her. So that's what we found out. So anyway, we didn't publish the story, but then at least we figured out that this was the thing, and got the family to stop beating her, and I don't really know whether she married the guy she wanted or what happened, but at least the beating stopped.
Okay, nice.
That's a funny story.
That is actually, and and you would have encountered numerous other stories where you had to, moderate the story and convey it in a particular manner. And did you ever have to not convey the truth and suppress the truth? Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, surprisingly, it so happened that on my off day, I was going to see some show at Chaudaya or something. And then I saw a lot of these constables marching together to go to the commissioner's office. They stopped and asked what is happening. And they said one of their colleagues had been just slapped by a politician.
Oh my God.
So they were going to go, apparently, I won't name the politician now. They had run a red light or they had done whatever violation, and when the cop had stopped them, that person had rolled down the window and slapped the cop. So all of them were going on an agitation. So I thought this is very bad. So I didn't go to see the show. I went back to the office, though it was an off day, and I filed a story. And I was very surprised to see that the next day it is not there. I mean, it's a great story, as the story goes, where a constable is slapped by a politician and all the other cops go on strike. And where is the story that I filed? And it turned out that the person was connected to the owner of the newspaper, that politician. So they killed the story. And then they took me off the crime beat also.
Oh my God.
Because they said that was why. The first question they asked me was, why did you, it was your day off, why did you come and file the story? I said, you should reward me for that.
Yeah.
And then this is the truth. They're saying no. So now we are off the crime beat. So that was a story that cost me my
career.
Not my career. There were many things that I could do.
Field in
that particular thing, which I thought was very bizarre. And they didn't even tell me that I was off the crime beat. So there was a thing that every day they mark you for whatever assignments or something. And since I was on the crime beat, I knew my beat. I didn't have to go check what was my assignment. There used to be a diary on the chief reporter's table. So next day, as usual, I went to the courts, I did all this, and I came back. And the chief reporter calls me and says, where's this story? I said, what story? I'm on the crime beat. He says, no, didn't you check the diary? This is your story. I said, what do you mean? You didn't tell me. He looked at me and said, please check the diary every day now. He didn't tell me directly.
Okay.
He wouldn't tell me directly that I'm off the crime beat, because then he would have to tell me why.
Yeah.
So in a very indirect manner, he said this. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
I got that. When you mentioned the way cookie crumbles, in a democracy, Sandhya, media is considered the fourth pillar. Do you think, the way things are being reported or not reported or selectively reported nowadays, don't you think the media is totally muzzled and is not doing what it's supposed to do?
I wouldn't say totally muzzled. There's still a great degree of freedom. But of course, since the newspapers are owned by business interests, they have their own, either they are looking after their own business interests or they have their own relationships with the powers that be. So to a certain extent, I wouldn't say it's completely muzzled, but yes, these factors do come into play.
Yes, so because countries like Russia, if we talk about China, we talk about North Korea, their media is completely controlled. And if it is selectively controlled, are countries like Turkey, if we could talk about, and of course Northeast, Middle East. But in a democracy, for a democracy to thrive, it is very important that the people are aware of what is actually happening, and without any filtration, the details and information should reach us so that we make an informed choice. Don't you think at the present day and age, they are shirking away from that responsibility?
See, any democracy in the world exists in a capitalist economy, right? So there are market forces at play. But by and large, we're still in a better place. Things could be worse.
Yeah.
Things could be way better, but things could be way worse. So we are somewhere towards, we're not that shackled in a dictatorship, but we're not completely free For example, I was just talking to a journalist from Australia who said they are far more freer than we are.
Yeah.
But I would say, look at America. There are so many channels that are completely controlled by the government indirectly because they own them or they have deals with the owners. So in that way, it's not that bad. Yes, things could be way better, but I wouldn't call it a completely blackout. And what is helping is the fact that there are people like you who have access to YouTube, they have access to social media, so the truth comes out. Sometimes, yes, there's a lot of sensationalism because of that.
Yes.
There's a lot of falsehood and fake news going around. But in a way, it's also an empowerment. Earlier, people had to sit and listen to someone to come and give them the news. Now, it comes to them instantly and they are able to use their own judgment. Hopefully, more people will use their own judgment. I would tell your viewers, please use your own judgment. Absolutely. Don't go by any one source. Try to access, if someone is a pro particular party, try also to go and see what the other person is saying and make up your own mind. Don't wait to be fed. True. Go actively and make up your own mind.
Seek it.
Yeah.
So, in fact, when you mentioned about the digital world, and I feel that in today's age, media is kind of democratized because everyone has access to information and they can immediately upload. You really, each one is a journalist in their own small way.
Absolutely, citizen journalists.
Yes, citizen journalists, and they are doing whatever they are. But yes, there's a lot of negative things, concocted things, which certainly should be moved away. But yet, I feel a large portion is something which is they are coming out with truth and they are giving a narration which is actually happening. And as you said, it is the person who's listening has to apply their discretion. They have to balance that particular news item, derive it from multiple sources, and then and then decide whether that particular news is correct or not, and not get carried away and swayed away. Because I feel that there's a lot of herd mentality. People tend to follow just because of a sensation, and then they just pursue it, and then they realize there wasn't anything in it. But then for a long time, the entire lot of them are rallying towards that particular sensation, and sometimes it may just not be worth your time and effort.
I think so. A lot of things stems from people being idle or underemployed. If they actually had enough work to do, they wouldn't waste their time pursuing all this sensationalism. Yes, politics is very important. We all need to actively vote, actively engage in civic affairs, actively do everything that we have to do. But that doesn't mean you suspend your own sense of, what is right and what is wrong and wait to be fed and just get carried away. People have to do that little bit of work.
Yeah. See, now India has a tendency, or we all have a tendency to compare ourselves with China. Somewhere in the 90s, if you look at our GDP was somewhere close, not exactly, but we were sitting on $270 billion and China was say $100 billion or a little more. But from then to now, the way China has gone up and India has been left behind, sometimes some of them argue that we require despot, someone who can autocratically rule us, and the media is controlled, which is what is happening in China, and that's when growth actually will happen. But somehow I don't endorse by it, because there are so many other countries which are doing exceptionally well. But then they argue, the leader Deng Xiaoping, who was there in China, he believed that it does not matter whether the cat is white or black. What it matters is that it should kill the mice. So it is, the means are not important, the end is. But somewhere then there is a clash of ethics, because if you ruthlessly pursue the end without thinking about the means, then somewhere I feel, you are just being inconsiderate just to pursue your goals. What is your take on it? Do you think that is the mindset? Because all of us are considering China as a champion of growth and progress. We should follow their way of conduct of government.
I don't think many people still think that China is the great thing to go. I don't agree with that at all. And definitely I would never ever endorse or support anybody who wants to be a despot however intelligent, however great, there cannot be this one single thing. There should always be counterbalance, which is why now things are almost becoming like a uni-party, a single majority party. I don't like it. Not because that person is bad or their politics is bad. I'm not here to make a statement about any political party, but we have to have multiple voices because we have so many, diverse interests in this country, and we cannot just hand over everything to one person or one party and say whatever you say works for us. That is no way. That is actually doing more harm than good. And yes, we do need economic development. Without it, there's nothing. But you can't sacrifice your own individual freedom, your freedom of speech, your freedom of movement, your freedom of choice to do the kind of work that you want to do. That you cannot give up.
Correct.
I think we need to have a balance. We obviously can't just have a state of anarchy. But then we need to have a rule of law. We need to have the kind of diversity and champion that kind of diversity in our political space, which allows the freedom of speech, freedom of choice, all the things that make life worth living.
Absolutely.
Just having a ton of money or having a great industrial production is not making people very happy.
True.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely true. I totally endorse what you are saying. I just wanted to know what is your thinking around this. And I'm so glad that it is a very progressive thinking. And those who are listening should understand that many people around the world have this kind of a thinking. So those who don't it's important that they do look into themselves and change the perspective, because it's inclusivity which is important nowadays. I too feel, and when you say diversity, it's inclusivity is it's a subset of it, and it is essential that people include everyone in decision making. While I read your bio, Sandhya, I also went through this, that you are an evangelist and a gender evangelist. And that's how I resonated with you, to be very candid. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, this lady would be worth talking to. She would be bringing a whole lot of things on the table. So tell me something, when you call yourself an evangelist, and India being ranked as a country where, as per United Nations, 18% of women are violated in some way or the other. And when we compare it to countries like Indonesia, Laos, even our neighboring countries which isn't as developed, their percentage is much less. And China, of course, they don't report. So if we have to do a comparison with a country which is equally populated, that would be China, but they don't publish their numbers. But there is a general understanding is that India is not safe. And because the women are not safe. What can we do to change this? I mean, because the number of police force against 100,000 people in India is so less, below the standard of the United Nations, and even the judge per 100,000 is so much less. I have the statistics, but I don't want to basically sound very studious around it. But what I want to ask you is that what is that each one can do to change the ecosystem, make this world a better place for women, especially India, Sandhya, since you are an evangelist. So
I think everything can begin with a change of mindset. There no amount of laws, no amount of policing, no amount of punishment or criminal justice is going to change this. It all has to start in the mindset, and it all has to start in the home, in the school, in the offices, which should ensure that it is an equal place where there is no discrimination because you are of a different gender. Everybody should be treated equally. Of course, there could be physical differences. Obviously, that's what makes life interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? But in a home, if the man and the woman treat each other with the same kind of deference and raise their children, whether they have two kids of different genders or same sex or whatever, make them understand that there is, no discrimination. And the women should acknowledge it, that they are worth it before they can, tell other people, show other people. First, the woman has to understand she is worth it. She doesn't have to ask anybody. Own it. Own that you're a person worthy of respect. Own that you're an equal. Own that you are capable of doing so much more than what the society or the person around you might do. A minuscule amount of super achievers are there in the corporate world or in industry or this. But for the bulk of the women don't feel it themselves because society and the culture around them makes them feel that. It all has to come from that. In fact, we had done a program a few years ago on Women's Day with the Paura Karmikas.
Okay.
And at that time, that's what I told them. I actually told them, I want you all, we had a wonderful program. We had a Kannada rap artist, we had a storyteller. Of course, to enthuse these people, we had a very popular television star who also talked to them about equality and how one should, the roles that she was consciously choosing as she grows older, how they reflected. But there was also a person who talked to them about how they can handle their finances, because nobody has told these people how to handle this. But I told them, do one thing. First, before I start telling you what the program is, I want you all to embrace yourself.
Yeah.
Don't wait for someone else to come and give you a hug. First, you hug yourself. Okay. You say you're worth it. And then look around you in your own home. When you're feeding your family, are you giving more food to your son than the daughter? And if the son gets married, do you treat the daughter-in-law the same way that you treat your son, or do you discriminate? These are all the small things.
Absolutely.
That you can make a change. It doesn't have to, and it may sound very, very minuscule, but these are the changes. I'm talking about what we told the Paura Karmikas.
Yeah.
The same thing, I think even everybody else should also accept it. And these are all so subtle, the way people put down. And I'm not saying it's always the men putting down women. Women themselves will put down other women. Why? Because that's the ingrained thing. It's become such a second skin. They don't even feel that it's different. Most of the time you hear of wives and mothers-in-law fights, and you hear the complaints happening. Why are these things happening? Why is there a tug of war? Why do they not think that, why are we fighting over this? Why can't we just be in our own selves and celebrate ourselves? Why can't we be a sisterhood? Those are the changes that I feel are important. It may sound very soft and very this thing, but I'm telling you, these are the changes that will change society, right?
Absolutely.
How many things can a minister tell, or an officer do, or a police do, or a teacher do? These are the changes that can happen. If you see, when the children come to school, if this is reinforced in the school by the teachers, but first it has to start at home. You can't have a home where the drunk father is beating up the mother and the sisters are being, molested. You can't expect that child to come out in the world and behave any differently. How much is the teacher going to be able to change? So it all has to start at the family level. And I think any of the films and the music and the theatre that will bring about this kind of a change, instead of us promoting violence in all this and popular serials and in the movie, I think these are the things that we can show. I think we should stop glamorizing violence. We must stop glamorizing the actors who do it, and actually that will be the beginning of the change we want.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The family is the first place where you have to make the change. But for that, as you have said, the women have to be aware. First, that is important, because it's the violence against women is somewhere, the deep-seated thoughts which women have about themselves, that they are not enough, they are insufficient, which is why, in the family, I feel there is a kind of inequity between the boy and the girl. And until that changes, I don't think it will reflect in the society. And schools also have to they have a major role to play, Sandhya. And I feel, the syllabus has to somewhere bring in this. This is important, because we may make the best engineers, best scientists, but what is the use if they have a skewed mentality, It is important that their mind changes for the better, and they understand that women are as capable.
Since you're talking about the syllabus, it just occurred to me. I see the way you are so self-sufficient, and obviously a lot of it has come because of your armed forces background. But if every woman felt as self-sufficient, she wouldn't feel that she was the weaker person. I think a major component of the syllabus in our education system is very skewed to just bookish knowledge, whether it is for girls or boys. If we actually make them more practical, teach them the practical skills, so they are not so dependent. I mean, I can't change anything in a tap without having to rely on a plumber.
Yeah.
I can change a light bulb, that's something. But anything a little more complicated, I can't. So these are the things that make you feel self-sufficient and empowered, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to keep depending on someone to do things.
Absolutely.
And in India, I think this whole thing of only bookish knowledge and only the marks and your grades,
that don't define.
I don't think the education system is focusing on holistic, the upbringing or the education as such. It's not just how, which university you can go to. How are you going to lead your life after you finish that university? I think those kind of things are important.
Oh, that tells me one thing, Sandhya, since you said this, I was all of 16. I remember very well. My father was a very progressive person. I think for every daughter, it's the father who's, the hero. And for me, he was the hero. The way he empowered me, I mean, I was as scared as any other girl. But somewhere at the age of 16, he told me, go to the bank, deposit this check, go to this office and fill the premium. He used to fill the premium in LIC. I remember going to LIC office and going to the banks, going to the petrol bunk, filling the petrol and all of this. Those jobs, and though I had two brothers, but my father always used to push me and he said, get out of a comfort zone and go to all these places. And it was something very bizarre because those days the girls were not seen in such public places. But because of that, I started becoming on my own. I realized there's no big shakes about anything, It's just that you require to put your mind. I want to tell the present generation girls, Sandhya, what I see is that there is lot of self-criticism and self-doubt which the girls have, mainly emanating from the fear of how they look. Because,
why this obsession?
Why is this the obsession? Because their mind is not in the right place. They don't realize that if they focus on growth, how much of attention, how much of progress they can do. What they are instead focusing on is physical beauty, which is a diminishing parameter.
Absolutely.
And that is not something which they should concentrate on. Through this mode, and while talking to them, talking to you, I want to tell the girls especially, get empowered through knowledge and skill. And skill need not be a particular, it could be anything. It could be anything, but get empowered. It is stop thinking that somebody else is going to validate your strength. Stop it. You got to get validation if you improve yourself a little more than what you were yesterday.
Absolutely.
I think that's the yardstick which and whatever skill they pick, whatever. But it should be a skill where they require to work hard and apply their mind.
And it makes them independent. So they're not waiting for someone else to come and give them money. They don't have to put out a hand to somebody else. They are capable of earning their own money. They are independent. Yeah. Their sense of self-worth is not just in how beautiful they are and the fancy holidays and the fancy handbags. Their sense of self-worth would be what can they contribute to the world.
Yes, can you buy that handbag?
Yeah.
I would want to tell the girls that instead of that being bequeathed to you either by your boyfriend or your father or your whoever else male partner, buy it. If you are fantasizing a bag and you say that you need it, have that capability to go and buy it. And buy it through legit sources. I again want to harp upon that, Sandhya, because nowadays I see them totally all over. They are not able to discern between what is right, what is not. They are ferociously only pursuing one thing, and that is material possession by however ways or means. Which is why what I'm trying to say is that take it through legit means. Work hard and get it. Try to abide that pride is altogether different than having a very rich boyfriend give it to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the girls are like, they look empowered, as in they dress up very, I'm talking about the so-called urban English speaking people, but I don't find them empowered. This is where the miss is. The miss is that they appear to be modern, but they actually are not modern.
Actually, I feel that now we are going back to the trad wife syndrome,
Okay.
All the modern young girls want to go back and be like what they, not even them, they probably their grandmothers or great grandmothers, and want to be just trophy wives and expect the husband or the partner to keep lavishing gifts on them, and their job is just to look pretty. I don't know why this trad wife thing has caught on now. They don't, all the doors that were kicked open by women of our generation and our mother's generation, they're not even interested in passing through that. I mean, it's not a generalization. I'm talking about maybe a percentage, but it's shocking that this has become a trend.
No, and what's surprising, Sandhya, because, if you see 10th class results, if you have a look at statistically, if you see 10th and 12th class, continuously every successive year, girls have been outperforming the boys, if you see the results. So their heart and the mind, if I can say through this statistics, was in the right place. But some erosion happens with time, wherein they either pursue something altogether different, or they just completely forget that they have an ambition and they got to pursue it. They get waylaid, they get carried away. And somewhere that FOMO thing that, I got to look good, I have to be in this particular circle, I have to move in this pub, and only then will I have these set of friends, being around.
Right.
I think this is so much, I see it, it's like penetrated so deeply in the minds of people, not just girls, even women my age, I see them, that they feel that they'll get validation only if they wear a certain types of clothes, are seen in certain places, and hang out with a certain type of people, which is where I feel your growth actually gets impeded, because you have stopped growing from the mental level, you have stopped working on your skill. There is so much you can do to upskill yourself, which you are not doing because you are putting your time around this. If you gain something from it, as in you are able to upskill, fine. But most often than not, I see them destroying themselves, Sandhya. I see that happening because of comparison, material comparison, and they also compare themselves as how many likes and how many friends, and these parameters are important, Sandhya. Don't you think that, you as an evangelist and I as a podcaster through our platform should bring that enlightenment and tell them that, hey, please put your mind in the right place so that you actually see growth. Don't you agree with me, Sandhya?
How do you suggest that this happen?
My way to look at it is, schools play a huge role and to build the self-worth. And the teacher and whoever is talking and the mother who's talking, they have to continuously tell the child through as an example themselves. Mind you, they got to be an example.
That's where I was getting at, because look at the age of the mothers and the teachers. They'll probably be doing the same thing themselves, right?
Yeah. So yes, that's where because we have not having good examples.
True.
Don't you think so? Because if a girl looks at, say, a good example, then she follows it. But if she doesn't see a good example around her, she sometimes may, I think she would be confused.
I think the biggest thing these days is because everything is available at the tip of your hand, right? So you were talking about what drives people into this materialistic consumerism. It's all there, whether you want it or not. All the apps are showing you these bags are available, this is there, these shoes are there, these holidays are available. So constantly there's a FOMO, or there's this thing of I want it, and which is the easiest way I can get it. It's a constant thing. So how we are going to change that, I don't know.
So I feel that, this media is a powerful platform, and maybe many of them, I and you may be trolled over what we are talking. They may say, that is your perspective. That's not how it is. And that's how they talk. But I feel that what I'm thinking is kind of right. And it is important that every individual understands their responsibility towards society. They got to be responsible. They have to become an example. Taking recourse to things which are just give them temporary high. And then it crashes, and then they sulk, and then they cry, then they move away from what their aim was, and they pursue something else. They feel damaged, they feel used. How is it helping them? And my question, and each one is going through it, yet they end up doing the same thing.
It's like a bubble,
Yeah.
They're just living in a bubble world, and they're distancing themselves from reality. But it's very hard for someone to have that kind of a detachment, I guess. For you, things may be clearer because of your career that you've had before you become a podcaster. So from that perspective, just before you started recording, we were talking about how a stint in the army in the army or the navy or the air force, conscription might be a good idea. So what do you think of it?
Oh, yeah, it's a fabulous idea, but our kind of population, we cannot sustain it. It's not possible. A country like Israel can, and which is why you see the way they function. They are always functioning to the optimum level. We, on the contrary, we are not performing to optimum level. There's so much of potential we have. We are channelizing it not in the correct direction. So our conscription, if it could come through, oh my God, that would be a game changer. But it is not something we can adopt, Sandhya. That's the thing. But I feel everyone is a patriotic and a warrior in their own cause if they do it in the right way. You need not don a uniform. You need not. In your own field, there is a certain perspective which you require to wear, and you can be that one tiny drop in the ocean, though it may look, negligible and insignificant. But trust me, it does create a ripple. It does have an impact if you look at it. Don't be dismissive. That's just a drop, but every drop
makes the mighty ocean.
Absolutely, I believe so. You being having this kind of a background and a crime reporter, my God, a field which people would be dreading to venture into. As a woman, you went in there, that's because of conviction. I'm sure it's because of conviction that you went there. You had that gumption. You had that's probably the drive. And I want the girls and the women and the men who are listening that please do not come in the way of the progress of women. Please make way. So much so, Sandhya, I just want to tell you that I went to this New Horizon school. There was a function there, and they invited me as an ex-defense officer. So in my speech, I told them, I called out, how many boys are there in this crowd? So make some noise. And they did. I said, my address today is not to the girls. I said, it's to the boys. Okay. I said, it's enough of sermoning we have done to the girls. I think we require to sermon the boys and tell them how to behave, how to be a responsible individual, and how to facilitate the growth of a girl. So girls went gaga, and they were cheering, and they were super happy because we require to talk. All those people who are in the area of influence, who can influence, I believe you should make that change, wherein you say that, you talk to the boys, how you bring them up, stop using these 4-letter words to address women, which they do, they use it like so casually without even realizing the repercussion it has in the mind of a girl. They do that. And girls also, when I put a post and some of them have disagreement, they start using cuss words.
Yeah, even in a friendly way, I don't encourage girls to call each other. They say, oh, we mean it. I've had some friends in the past who use these words. And I always say, no, you will never use that word. If I'm going to be at this event with you or with you, you will not use this word to another woman. You may mean it as fun, you may mean it as a term of endearment, but that is not how it sounds. So you will not use that word.
Exactly. That is, and I was shocked when I was trolled for a particular post, which was kind of a little controversial, because I spoke about a subject regarding drinks in defense. So there was this section of people who said that what you are saying is rubbish. That is fine as long as you have a disagreement, but the decency should not.
Right. You can agree without being disrespectful or rude.
Yes. So some of them did use words which were not something which are digestible by me, but according to them, it is perfectly okay. Fine. But you don't realize by using these words, somewhere you're putting the women down. They don't realize it, Sandhya. There's nobody to tell them and guide them that, hey, do you realize when you say this, you're putting your own self down? So even boys, girls, all of them, I'm not saying that, only boys can cuss and girls can't. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying nobody should. And if at all you have to, but not in a public forum like this, apply your discretion. If you think you look cool by doing it, I think it's misplaced. I don't know. Maybe it's my take. I feel it's this thing of looking cool and being accepted through these means. I think it's hugely misplaced. It's not how it ought to be.
I agree.
Don't you think so?
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me something. What is your take on marital rape? Supreme Court doesn't want to give a order around it.
I don't know why it won't.
Yeah.
That is completely against any country, in any society. I think it's completely unacceptable, and I can't imagine our Supreme Court, which in the recent past has come out with so many good judgments, why it's sitting on the fence on this. You're married to someone who is your partner, and it's your wish. Just a woman can't rape a man, right?
Yeah.
So a man can't rape a woman either. I don't know why. It's such a complete and utter violation.
No, that's because the government has told Supreme Court that exercise restraint and don't give a verdict against exception 2 of
ridiculous. Article. A marriage is not, bondage.
Yeah.
In that sense, it's a bond, but it's not bondage.
Correct.
It's a contract, but you can't put the man over the woman and say he has unlimited rights over the woman's body. She has to enjoy it. She has to consent to it.
What they fear is, that it will affect the social fabric.
But what kind of a society are we living in then, where the husband is told he has, like a woman is like an ATM. Anytime he can go and have his way with her. What kind of a society? That's very wrong. I don't agree with that at all.
At all. And when they say that by being married it is considered a consent, then if in marriage, if it is intimacy is not there, as long as it's consensual, it's okay, but if it is forced, it's not correct. Absolutely. Is what is being argued about. But they say there will be a lot of false cases which will come. Already the Domestic Violence Act, which is there for women, is being, according to the society or according to statistically, probably there is a misuse also, which I don't want to brush it away.
If you look at percentages, how much of it would be? If you look at, I'm not saying for a minute that it is right. Nobody should misuse the law. But if you look at how men have been oppressing women for so many centuries, now if like a minuscule percentage of this happens, why is it highlighted much more?
Absolutely.
Than what the men does? If every single thing is reported every day, the newspapers would have no space for anything else. So because it's so rare, when a woman does it, it gets reported.
Yeah.
When the law is misused. I'm not saying women don't misuse it, but the percentage is so low. So the government cannot justify the fact that just because a woman agrees that this is my man, this is my husband, and I would enter into a marriage, doesn't mean he can have sex on demand. She should also be in the mood. I'm sure if the man is a good sexual partner, the woman would be happy to have it. So the onus is on the man.
Yeah, and when it can become, marital rape is illegal in Nepal, is a small country, Sandhya. If it can happen in Thailand, if it can happen in Bhutan, Indonesia, why can't it happen in
It's
India?
so shameful.
So it's so
yeah, because
shameful
there's so
that
many more men here, that's why.
no, we have, compared to women, yes, a little more
Yeah.
men. But I totally feel the mindset has to, because even now they think that once you're married, the man has the autonomy over the woman, and he can get his way, and nobody questions them.
It's high time. It changes. It has to change.
It has to change for the better, and we have to make the society a good place for women and people to live in each one. And I remember watching one of your podcasts, and you said, I love going to Cubbon Park, but then when I go there, is it safe? So you created a particular movement where you said that, hey, if you're interested in reading or if you're doing anything, just come by and we'll just form a circle, so that, if I'm a lone woman sitting there, I'm not like disturbed and asked, why are you sitting without purpose here? It is so, it is that much it is on us, that we just can't go alone anywhere. I sometimes feel men are so privileged.
Yeah.
They can do anything. And I feel that we have to put so much of effort, think about so many things before venturing out. And they don't have to fear that. In fact, there was this very nice article on LinkedIn, which was an eye-opener, where this girl says that when we are doing the same work, both a man and a woman, women are underpaid, whereas we should be more paid. So her argument was, like, we require to go in a particular transport. We can't take any transport we please. So we, like, supposing I go out in the night, say at 8 or 9, I would prefer a cab than an auto. It is
I would say she would be safer in an auto than a cab. At least in an auto she can jump out.
At least, yeah, that is also logical. But generally they consider that, because it's a closed space, so, things would, otherwise anything can happen. And then what she's arguing is, I have to spend extra money.
Absolutely.
Whereas a guy, he can just walk also, all you know. But a girl, so she says, I am contributing to the GDP. I'm spending more. The same amount of salary both of us are getting, or maybe I'm getting less for the same work. I spend more to keep myself safe. So, and when she said it was actually very pensive, the thought, that she is, her salary, she is spending so much for keeping herself safe.
Absolutely.
Which a man need not. So those things, it is something which we have to make a place which is safe for a woman to grow. Because imagine 50% of your population is not contributing. They are contributing, which you don't think household work
much
is
more,
not.
yes, of course.
So, but if you want a proper growth and development, which country treats their women like this? Like
India is not new. Many countries do the same. It's the same all over the world. There's no country where I think women can say that they are not, that they are equal. They may have heads of state, but that doesn't mean it changes the country. Look at Japan. It's headed by a woman prime minister, but she's supposed to be more conservative than men in terms of it. Look at what happened. Was it in Mexico? Where the president was molested by a guy in the crowd. Can you imagine what kind of thinking that was?
It was.
So I wouldn't say India is any different, but yes, since there are so many more people, there are more cases of these things being reported. But definitely, women have to be given equal pay for equal work. That was accepted theoretically, but in practice, how do they negotiate it? Do they know how much the men are being paid? They have to do a lot more homework and have the confidence to demand it.
Yeah. So tell me, Sandhya, of the numerous people you have interviewed, you run a Raintree Media Limited, it's your own transmedia company, and the numerous people you have, cross-sectional people from different fields you have interviewed. Who's this one person you think has deeply impacted you, because not just of what they are, because you believe that they act intrinsically good. Intrinsically, there's something known as, some person appears to be good. That's a different thing. But there is something known as, they are actual, their substance is there, and you know it. And it was a pleasure talking, and you got charged, you got enthused, and you felt that this one person will make the difference.
It'd be very hard for me to choose one person because
Okay.
I am really privileged because I think because of my career and my interests, apart from my day job, my interests in the arts and everything else, I do meet very interesting people. So
Okay.
those are the people that I feel that they are from diverse streams of life. One was a mathematician, one was a captain of industry, one was from the armed forces,
Okay.
politicians, writers, so many, but all of them have made huge differences, I feel, to the world that they're doing. And it's from each of them, I feel that there is something to learn. It could be a much younger person than me, it could be a much older person, it could be somebody who has really radically changed the world, or maybe they have excelled only in their field. I think they all make a difference some way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful talking to you, Sandhya. It was a complete pleasure, listening to your perspective, listening to your journey, and your thought around all the topics which I asked you. I for sure know one thing, that how I am thinking is correct, thank God. So it's kind of aligned.
They do say fools never differ.
Yes, absolutely correct.
So either two of us are fools or we are too wise.
Okay. I would prefer the latter.
I'm sure.
Thank you so much for coming. Yeah.
I do want you to say a little bit about yourself, because I think, the people who know me and who might watch it would want to know a little bit about you.
So, yes, I come from, my background is, I was, after my graduation, I was doing law. And I wanted to be independent, And somehow that was in me. I was going through these papers. I saw this advertisement. Without telling anyone, I applied.
Mm-hmm.
I got the call letter. So I started...
what did you apply for?
For Air Force.
Okay.
Without even knowing what I'm signing up for, frankly, very candid.
What did the advertisement say?
It just said, those days it was opened only for ground duty branches.
Okay.
Women were not allowed in it. They were just experimenting, basically. They wanted to know whether we can pull it off. And I was taken in only for 5 years. It was just for initial 5 years. So I applied there were different branches, logistics, education, administration. I don't know what is what. I simply ticked in one, and administration, and I went there. So SSB had to prepare, and I got selected. In fact, I stood first in SSB. I didn't realize it. I realized it later. I went to the academy, went through the entire training, which was for a year, then got posted in different places. One thing, because I've been in an environment where men were predominantly there. I've always been surrounded by men. And the things which were told to us is, like the biases which we had. I'm telling you, Sandhya, although people all ask, how did you find, were there biases against you? If you are good, there is no bias. People accept you quickly.
Okay.
I'm sure even in journalism, you would say that, and whoever I've spoken to in whichever field, they make way if you are good. If you're cutting corners, and if you are using things in a different way, then probably it's different. Otherwise, and I also want to tell that many men think that women are there just for ornamental purpose. Okay, if they think they are for ornamental purpose, then increasing year they wouldn't be taking women in the armed forces.
Right.
That is one. You look like they say, I believe in God, everyone else has to bring data. Other than God, everyone has to. So here I'm talking through data. It's not my way of, it's the data is speaking itself. The other thing, ask anyone in the defense forces, what is the performance of women in comparison to men in SSB? That is in the selection. The yardstick for women is higher. Can you believe it?
Why is that?
Because the vacancies are lesser.
Ah, okay.
So if both a girl and a boy in SSB have performed at par, there are chances for a guy to make it is higher than the girl.
So the woman has to get that much more.
That's because vacancies are lesser.
Right.
And boys, because I'm just trying to say that is the capacity which our girls possess.
Right.
And you can pull it out from any of the 3 services and see, how have their performance been in SSP. Hands down, they will say that girls score better.
Wow.
And I'll just want you to know that if they think that we are just ornaments, of ornamental value, when I started off, very few branches they were taking women. Now they're taking fighters.
Amazing.
There was a cadet of mine who's in a Rafale aircraft she flies. So what I am trying to tell you is that, sad part, each time the women has to get the nod from the guy that please allow so that I can.
Exactly. That's what has to change.
The guy doesn't have to. He can apply anywhere. Right. He can apply anywhere.
Right.
She can't apply. Now they will argue, because of this, that. Then how are they performing? Okay, maybe in certain hostile places like in infantry, it is difficult. The lifestyle is different and everything. I get it. But what about the other places where they can do? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you allowing? So if they say that, if instead of Abhinandan, who became the prisoner of war for a short time, if it was a woman, then, the respect of our country, they could have violated her. So this is the argument they put forth.
That is so dumb. A respect of a country is equated to one person, is it?
This is what they say. That's what they say. So, I do not understand why they consider, a man considers, that's why he wants his wife and his daughter and his sister to be well behaved, because their behavior directly has an impact or bearing on how his reputation is taken in society. This is how it is perceived. That if she doesn't behave or if she's violent or anything, people will cast aspersions.
See, this is the whole thing that happens. Nobody should be violated. But I'm saying the minute the person is violated, there is no shame on that person or her country. It is a crime. But it is the person who's violating is the criminal, not the person or the nation they came from. This thing of separating the two, it's so tightly woven in people's brains, I don't know whether they can understand it. If a woman is violated, the dishonor is not hers. The dishonor is the assaulter, the person who violates her.
Absolutely.
And the state she comes from, or the family she comes from, or the country she comes from is not dishonored. The place he comes from probably should be dishonored, not that. But it's so interlinked because the sense of ownership they feel that this woman belongs to them.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So if anything happens to her, it's a personal affront on the person.
Yeah.
But yes, I think those are challenges that are constantly a person who goes into battle would face. What would happen to their life? What will happen to their personal safety? But do you mean to say men are not raped by other men? Men can be raped by other men also, right? But I'm just saying.
Yes, but that...
if rape is the thing to be the one deterrent, men can also be raped by other men.
Yeah. No, in fact, what they say is the violation, physical violation which happens to a woman is much more pronounced as compared to a man. It's how you perceive it. It's basically what
this is when we're talking about going into
battle in territory.
But I think I don't know about India, I'm not, but from what I've seen, women in other armies have been in all those places, right? Part of the US Army, it has been
They are there. But what they argue is that, hey, there are certain things you cannot do, like because of your physical limitations and because of the kind of security you need, because those who are there are men who are you going to fight with, and they are carnivorous.
Anyway, they are enemies.
They are carnivorous is what they argue, and therefore they can come. My take on this is, if now in special forces women are not taken in the army, they are not taken. Now that's a very elite force, it's a commando course, and which is done, and they go through extensive training to be there. My thing is that show the girl that this is what you are signing up for. Do you still want to sign up for it? Because it's going to be tough. The terrain is extremely inhospitable. Do you still want to sign? If still she wants to, give her the right. Let her. Here you are not even, you're blocking so many avenues, so many places where they want to go. You are telling them, hey, already you have assumed. Tell them what they're going to sign up for. Tell them that it's not going to be an easy, rosy life. Yet if you want to, then of course come. Then she's been ready for all challenges. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Be very sure of yourself. Like when I want to ask this, is that there are, when it comes to spies, that is a very, very...
women are supposed to be better spies, right?
Yes, and it is a very risky job. You would also agree. You are a journalist. You also you have been cultivating people and sources, and spies also have to cultivate people. When you cultivate, there is a certain modus operandi in which you operate, and there are a lot of risk. When all the countries take women as spy and they use them, when they can do that, and they're not bothered about the other risks.
Yes. And they disown them if they're caught.
I'm just asking that when it suits you, you justify everything.
Right.
This is where I find a mismatch.
Right.
When it suits them, they say everything is fine.
That's such a valid point you make.
Correct
really.
or not,
very.
Sandhya? And also the simple thing I'll tell you, see, when women started stepping out of their home to work, okay, when they started stepping out of the home to work, they said, hey, the family will collapse. Or who will look after the children? So many arguments. But did you even once have a male nurse? Nurses were always women. So when it comes to serving and all, they always wanted women, and they never thought that who will look after their family and whether that her family will collapse or not. That thought never occurred to them. Air hostess has to be a girl. It's selective, because these things only women can do, so that time they can step out, that time their family can collapse.
Right.
That's okay at that time, but not when they have to establish themselves. No, that's not possible. That's where I feel that they are so selective in which fields can be open. That's how I look at it, that it's coming from somewhere from the place of fear. That it will be, I have even gone to a point where a man says, by women working, they are depriving a family of a livelihood.
Yeah, they used to say that, absolutely. Whereas our families are surviving only because we have been working.
Yeah, had she not been working, that particular vacancy could have been taken over by a man and he could have supported a family. This is the most preposterous argument.
But I think we are past all that, luckily.
Yes, thankfully.
At least that, but then, there's a stage where women has to work outside as well as inside. They're carrying two loads. The work at home as well as work in the office.
That doesn't change.
Double load now, since they moved from being only housewives to the corporate world or whichever world, and now they've come to this.
I'm going to be trolled a lot for this because when my colleagues used to say, okay, today we have a party, my wife is taking care of it. I used to feel, wow, if only next generation I'll only have a wife. It is so good, you can just concentrate into your work because your domestic part is taken care by your wife. It is so much good to have a wife. Not that I'm saying anything, but
absolutely,
men has it so easy. In fact, if you, there was this one reel which I saw, that very sensible, where a man was given 2 children, a laptop, office bags, school bags, and this girl was freed from all this, and they were both asked to run. And the girl outsped him, and it was
exactly. So the women, after getting the right to work outside, now carry both the burdens. Of course, it's not all bad. I am told that quite a lot of younger couples do share the load, which is great.
Which is very nice.
And it would be nice if everybody accepts that the women are equal everywhere.
Yes. So in this note, we wind up, Sandhya. It was wonderful chatting up with you. More power to you, more power to whatever you are pursuing, and all the best to you for in your pursuits.
Thank you, Julie. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and all the best in your podcasting journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sandhya.